The first time I drove through the wrought iron gates of Oakridge Estates, something inside me finally exhaled. After 3 years of apartment hopping across the city, dragging suitcases up narrow staircases, and explaining to Lily why we had to move again, I'd found what looked like permanence. "This is it, sweetie," I whispered to my 7-year-old daughter, her nose pressed against the car window as we crawled down Magnolia Drive. "What do you think?" Lily's eyes widened at the sight of the neat row of two-story homes with their pristine lawns and carefully trimmed hedges. "It looks like the houses in my storybooks, Mommy." She wasn't wrong. With its tree-lined streets, community gazebo, and the small duck pond glittering in the distance, Oakridge Estates resembled a page torn from a fairy tale, a stark contrast to the chaotic urban landscape we'd left behind. The bruises from my divorce were still tender, but here, I thought, they might finally begin to heal. Our little brick house on Wisteria Lane came with a bay window in the living room and a backyard maple tree perfect for climbing. The previous owners had painted Lily's room a soft lavender, her favorite color. It felt like the universe was finally cutting us some slack. Welcome to Oakridge. Our next-door neighbor, Elena Patel, appeared on our doorstep the day after we moved in, her arms laden with a homemade vegetable biryani. My kids insisted I bring this over. They're excited to have a new friend in the neighborhood. Behind her stood 3 children of varying heights, the youngest clutching a worn soccer ball. Lily, normally shy around strangers, stepped forward with unusual confidence. "I'm Lily. I like your soccer ball." Just like that, friendships bloomed. Within days, Lily had a small circle of neighborhood kids who would knock on our door after school, asking if she could come out to play. I'd watch from the kitchen window as they raced across lawns, invented elaborate games, and collapsed in fits of giggles. For the first time since the divorce, my daughter's laughter didn't sound forced. "You seem to be settling in well," remarked Mr. Harrison, a silver-haired former English teacher who lived across the street. We developed a habit of chatting over the fence while I tended to my fledgling garden. "It's nice having a child's energy in the neighborhood again." "Lily loves it here," I admitted, brushing dirt from my hands. "It's exactly what we needed." "Well, just a friendly warning." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Be careful about the HOA. They can be particular." I'd received the HOA handbook, a 50-page binder filled with rules and regulations, but had only skimmed through it, overwhelmed by the logistics of our move. How bad could it be? I laughed. The answer came 3 weeks later in the form of a notice taped to our front door. The hanging basket of purple petunias on my porch violated Section 7, Paragraph 3 of the HOA guidelines, which specified that all exterior flora must be contained in HOA-approved planters, available for purchase through the association at a reasonable fee. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered, but I complied, purchasing the overpriced terracotta pot and transferring my flowers. Then came the citation for my mailbox. Apparently, rustic bronze was not an approved color for mailbox finishes. Next, a warning about Lily's bicycle being visible from the street. All recreational equipment must be stored out of sight when not in use. Each notice was signed by Evelyn Winters, HOA president, in an elegant cursive that somehow managed to look condescending. "It's just how things work here," apologized Mrs. Chun from 2 doors down when she spotted me angrily stuffing the latest notice into my recycling bin. "Everyone goes through this initiation period." I might have learned to live with these petty intrusions, chalking them up to the price of suburban tranquility. But then came the notice that shattered our peace. Effective immediately, per Board Decision 119C, children's recreational activities are prohibited in all common areas. This includes the central green, gazebo area, and pathways. Violators will be subject to a $150 fine per incident. The timing couldn't have been crueler. Summer break had just started, and the neighborhood kids had established a daily routine of meeting at the central green for games of tag, Red Rover, and impromptu soccer matches. It was the highlight of Lily's day. "But why, Mommy?" Lily's lower lip trembled when I tried to explain that she couldn't play with her friends in the green space anymore. We weren't doing anything wrong. I had no good answer. The official explanation cited liability concerns and preservation of community aesthetics, but watching my daughter's shoulders slump as she stared out the window at the empty green space, I felt something inside me harden into resolve. This is ridiculous, Elena Patel fumed when we discussed it over coffee the next day. My kids are climbing the walls being stuck at home. Raj has summer projects to complete, and having the younger ones underfoot all day makes it impossible. It's outrageous, agreed Mr. Harrison, who joined us. In my 40 years of teaching, I learned that children need physical activity. It's essential for their development. Has anyone challenged the HOA before? I asked. The silence that followed was answer enough. Evelyn Winters had been HOA president for 15 years. A former corporate lawyer with silver-streaked black hair always pulled into a tight bun, she ran the association with iron-fisted efficiency. Board meetings were held during working hours, ensuring that most residents with jobs couldn't attend. Decisions were made by a small circle of retirees who shared Evelyn's vision of Oakridge as a pristine, adult-oriented community. I tried once, admitted Gerald Johnson, who lived with his wife Margaret at the end of our street. Wanted to install a wheelchair ramp when Margaret's arthritis got bad. They denied our request 3 times, said it would disrupt the architectural harmony of the neighborhood. By the time we finally got approval, Margaret could barely leave the house. Looking at these neighbors, good people trapped in a web of arbitrary rules, I felt something I hadn't experienced since before my divorce. Purpose. I'm going to fight this, I declared, surprising even myself with the conviction in my voice. The kids need a place to play, and these rules they're just wrong. Elena's eyebrows shot up. You're going to take on Evelyn Winters? Alone. I looked down at my hands, suddenly aware of how enormous this task might be. I was a graphic designer working from home, juggling client deadlines and single motherhood. I had no legal training, no political connections, and frankly, not much fighting spirit left after the brutal custody battle with my ex-husband. Not alone, Mr. Harrison said, placing his weathered hand over mine. I'll stand with you. Me too, Elena nodded firmly. It's time someone stood up to the HOA tyranny. By evening, word had spread through our little cul-de-sac. The Johnsons offered their living room for a planning meeting. Elena created a group chat for us to coordinate. Mr. Harrison dug out his old copies of Robert's Rules of Order and the state laws governing homeowners associations. Our first official act of rebellion was simple but effective: a petition. We went door to door, explaining our position and collecting signatures. Many residents signed enthusiastically, sharing their own HOA horror stories. Others were hesitant, fearful of retribution. Some simply closed their doors in our faces. 93 signatures, I announced at our second meeting, spreading the papers across the Johnsons' coffee table. That's almost 60% of the households. Enough to force a special meeting, Mr. Harrison confirmed, consulting his notes. They can't ignore us now. But Evelyn Winters was not a woman easily backed into a corner. When confronted with our petition, she simply smiled thinly and cited a bylaw requiring 30 days' notice for special meetings, plus an agenda approved by the current board. Of course, she added, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness, we welcome resident input at our next scheduled meeting in September. September, when summer would be over and the point essentially moot. That night, I sat on my back porch long after Lily had gone to bed, fighting back tears of frustration. The sounds of the neighborhood settling into evening surrounded me, sprinklers shutting off, screen doors slapping closed, the distant hum of air conditioners battling the July heat. This was supposed to be our fresh start, not another battlefield. My phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Don't give up. We're brainstorming alternatives. The alternatives came in many forms. Elena, with her background in public relations, created a neighborhood newsletter highlighting the benefits of outdoor play for children's development. The Johnsons, with their extensive community connections, reached out to former board members who had been pushed out by Evelyn's regime. Mr. Harrison researched legal precedents where HOA rules had been successfully challenged. And me? I did what I do best. I told our story. I designed infographics comparing our HOA rules to those of neighboring communities. I created before and after mock-ups showing how designated play areas could enhance, not detract from, the neighborhood's appeal. I photographed the empty common areas, ghostly in their perfectionism, and contrasted them with old community photos showing children playing, neighbors chatting, life happening. "This is powerful stuff," Elena whispered during our third strategy session, flipping through my presentation. But will it be enough? Our answer came in the form of an unexpected ally. David Chen, Mrs. Chen's son and a junior partner at a local law firm, volunteered his expertise pro bono. "The prohibition on children in common areas potentially violates fair housing laws," he explained, reviewing our HOA covenant. "These spaces are meant for all residents, and rules that disproportionately impact families with children could be considered discriminatory." Armed with this legal perspective, we requested a formal review of the rule. Evelyn could no longer dismiss us so easily. The tension in the community was palpable. Anonymous notes appeared in my mailbox, some supportive, others warning me to stop making trouble. Elena reported that some longtime friends had suddenly become distant. The Johnsons found their garden gnome collection, which had somehow always received an exemption from the decorative guidelines, smashed one morning. "Are we doing the right thing?" I asked Lily one night as I tucked her into bed. The weight of leading this charge had begun to take its toll, and I needed reassurance from the person who mattered most. Lily considered the question with a seriousness that sometimes startled me in one so young. "You always tell me to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard," she said finally. "That's what you're doing, right?" Out of the mouths of babes. The special meeting was scheduled for the first week of August, the hottest day of the summer. The community center's air conditioning strained against the combined heat of the weather and the simmering tensions in the room. Residents filled every chair, lined the walls, and spilled out into the hallway. Evelyn opened the meeting with a pointed reminder about maintaining the standards that make Oakridge Estates a premier community. When it was my turn to speak, my mouth went dry. All the carefully prepared points seemed to evaporate from my mind as I faced the board, 5 stern faces regarding me with expressions ranging from boredom to outright hostility. But then I spotted Lily in the crowd, sitting between Elena and Mr. Harrison, her small face a mixture of anxiety and hope. Behind her, a sea of other children, Elena's 3, the Wilson twins, little Theo from down the street, all watching with the innocent expectation that adults would do the right thing. I found my voice. "Oakridge Estates isn't just a collection of houses," I began. "It's a community. And communities need spaces where people of all ages can connect, where children can play and grow, where neighbors become friends. The current rule doesn't just rob our children of summer fun, it robs all of us of the chance to truly be neighbors." For 2 hours, residents spoke, some in favor of our petition, others defending the status quo. David Chun presented his legal concerns. Elena shared research on property values in family-friendly communities. The Johnsons spoke movingly about wanting their grandchildren to feel welcome during visits. When all arguments had been made, Evelyn called for a vote. The room fell silent as board members marked their ballots. Even the children seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, their usual fidgeting stilled. By a vote of 3-2, Evelyn announced, her expression unreadable, "The board has decided to amend Rule 119C. Children's recreational activities will be permitted in designated common areas between the hours of 10 a.m. and 7 p.m., with adult supervision required for children under 10. A compromise, not a complete victory, but a significant one. The explosion of cheers made the final details almost inaudible. Lily launched herself into my arms, nearly knocking me over. "You did it, Mommy," she exclaimed, her face radiant. "We did it," I corrected her, looking around at our unlikely coalition. All of us together. Later that evening, as the sun began its descent, I watched from our porch as children reclaimed the central green. Their laughter carried on the warm summer breeze, a sound more beautiful than any carefully orchestrated suburban silence. Mr. Harrison joined me, offering a glass of lemonade. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "Evelyn stopped me after the meeting. Said she's not running for re-election next term." I raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?"
"Board needs new blood," she said.
"Someone who understands the changing needs of the community." He gave me a meaningful look. "Someone like you, perhaps." The suggestion startled a laugh out of me. Me? On the HOA board? After all this? "Especially after all this," he insisted. "Change doesn't happen by itself, you know. Someone has to stick around to nurture it." As the fireflies began to emerge, dotting the twilight with their intermittent glow, I considered his words. 6 months ago, I'd been a woman running from conflict, seeking only safety and anonymity. Now I was being asked to step further into the spotlight, to help shape this community that had become our home. Across the green, Lily scored a goal in their impromptu soccer game. She turned, searching until she found me watching, and waved triumphantly. I waved back, my heart so full it ached. Being an underdog isn't about being weak or defeated. It's about finding strength you didn't know you had when something matters enough. It's about learning that your voice, when joined with others, can create ripples that become waves. It's about discovering that sometimes home isn't just a place you find, it's a place you help create. And sometimes the greatest victories aren't won in courtrooms or boardrooms, but in ordinary neighborhoods where people remember how to be neighbors again. As summer faded into fall, and the children of Oakridge Estates continued to fill the common areas with their games and laughter, I realized what this journey had truly given us. Not just a change in rules, but a change in ourselves, a reminder that community isn't found in a handbook or enforced by citations, but built through courage, compassion, and the willingness to stand up for something greater than ourselves. That, I think, is the most important lesson I could teach my daughter. And as I watched her play freely under the maple trees of our new home, I knew it was a lesson she'd carry with her long after the summer ended.